Hi, welcome to episode 542 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and over at Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I also have an Etsy shop where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. I just thought of all the things that I forgot, but we'll catch you up as we go on. It is Monday, October 20th, and fall has fallen. A month after it became officially fall, we are finally in fall weather, and I could not be more overjoyed. This weekend was absolutely lovely. It was still 75 to 80 on Saturday, but overnight we had some wind, and then on Sunday it was blustery and cool. It was 49 in the morning, and the high only reached 65, and it was windy and chilly and absolutely perfect. We went out for a bike ride yesterday, which was lovely. I wore too many clothes actually because I thought I would be chilly riding out in the wind, and I actually got a little warm, but we took our bikes out. This is the first time I've been on my e-bike in over a year. I do ride in a trainer in the basement sometimes, but so we took the bikes out. And he normally gets in probably 30, 40, 50 miles, and he went and did his own thing for a while, and then at the end I joined him, and we went 2.5 miles over to a park that's nearby, and then did a bunch of loops around the park, which are all a mile apiece, and then came home, and after about 8.5, 10 miles, I had fresh air poisoning and an hour on the bike, and I was ready to relax, but it was lovely. This morning, I think the low was even a little lower. It might have been 45. The house was 60 most of the day. It's still 73 outside, so it's not that cold, but inside the house it's chilly. I'm wearing a wool sweater, I'm wearing wool socks. I had a cup of tea last night before bed because I was so chilled, and honestly, I am all smiles. This is the season that I love. So I hope that you are doing well. You heard about most of my weekend. I got a bunch of crafting in, spent some time with my husband. It just was really lovely, and even got a nap in on Saturday. And so I have been feeling creatively inspired. I finished some projects this week. I also wrapped up a whole bunch of things and sent them away. The kids' sweaters are now off to the kids. My nephew's birthday is this week, and then my niece's birthday is the following week. And so those are off. And also, if you've been with me for a while, I knit a blanket for my niece for, well, I couldn't knit it for her wedding because her wedding came out quickly. I tried to make it for her first wedding anniversary, and had so much trouble with my arm last year I couldn't get through the blanket, so I got through it this year and sent it off in advance of her 2-year anniversary, which is at the end of the month. So I packed things up, got things out of the house. I feel like a weight is lifted off my chest. I finished a project this week. I have a couple others that I would like to cast on. Nanny Suemo is around the corner. I am just singing all of the fall praises. So, you might have wondered about this episode's title, and it has to do with the tea that I'm drinking today. I realized that I had missed my cue in October because it didn't feel like fall yet to bring back my Hello Kitty mug. Those of you who have been watching for a long time know that usually the month of October I switch over to my Hello Kitty mug, and I thought about it today as I was prepping my tea. I am drinking tea from a local Chinese tea shop. It is called Shang Tea, and it is here in Kansas City in Crown Center, and they have lovely teas, and this is cinnamon oolong, WU-long, W-O-L-O-N-G. I think it's an oolong tea. It doesn't have a lot of markings on the package. It's either an oolong or a green tea. And I looked at it for a second and I was like, cinnamon Wu-Tang? That's weird. That is something entirely different. But that is how we got this episode's title. So I am drinking my cinnamon oolong tea in my Hello Kitty mug. So let's talk about the crafting, because for once I actually have lots to show you. So the first thing is that I finished the socks that I was knitting for my nephew. So I have 1 and 2. These are Monkey Socks by Cookie A. It is a pattern that was available in a couple different places. It was a free pattern on Interweave Knits, but it's also free. It's available on Knitty, and that's where the links in my show notes go. I took the pattern and I modified it slightly. The pattern is for a 64-inch 64 stitch sock, and I modified it down to a 56 because I was looking for a child size. I knit these on a size US 0, and the yarn is super fun. It is from Deep Dyed Yarns Good Juju, and it's in the Beetlejuice colorway, and it is a little bit on the thin side. It's, as far as sock yarns go, 435 yards, 75%, 25% nylon in 100-gram skein. So they are super, super cute. I love them. They almost pooled the same. You can see a little bit. Sorry, let's do this for the camera, right? You can see they have pooled a little bit, and I love them. They're super fun and exciting. And actually, they almost remind me of Halloween socks. So it's funny that I'll be giving them to him for closer to Christmas, but hopefully he will like them, and hopefully I knit them big enough. I do have about half a skein left over, maybe a little bit more than that, and so I can add to them if I need to, or I'm thinking about making a pair of socks for myself with some of the leftovers, plus the leftovers from his sisters, which I will show you in just a minute. So that is one project done and dusted. So the other project that I have been working on still is I am working on a blanket. It's called the Garter Ridge Baby Blanket, and it is by Orange Flower Knits. It is a free pattern, and it is available both on Ravelry and on Orange Flower's website. So I have a link in the show notes to the pattern on Orange Flower's website. And I am knitting this in some yarn that I have, well, all yarn that I have in stash. A while ago, I bought a sweater quantity of Cloudborne fibers, and this is a while ago because this is back when Craftsy was still Craftsy before it was Blueprint and then Craftsy again, so way back in the first iteration. This is Cloudborne Fibers 100% fine Highland wool. It is called Highland DK. I swear it's like a sporter fingering weight, but this is what it looks like, and this yarn is no longer made. It is 164 yards to a 50-gram skein, so that would bring it to 380. Yeah, so this is really more of a sport weight. I didn't even look at the fact that it was 50 grams. So it is really, really more of a sport weight. Anyway, I had 6 skeins. I could have sworn I had 7, and maybe that 7th skein will turn up somewhere. I had 6 skeins, and I'm holding it doubled with leftover fingering weight from samples and shawls that I knit for Zen Yarn Garden. And I have a lot of really fun, colorful leftovers, and I am working through my yarn, both sets, and I'm probably going to run out of both about the same time, which is only about enough for half a blanket. So I am currently in thoughts on what to do for the second half of the blanket. So let me show you what I've got. This is what it looks like. As I said, it is garter ridges, so it's basically just a broken rib, and actually it looks like I left off in the middle of a row, but you can see I am holding the yarn doubled. I have the orange, and then I have varieties of other things that have speckles of other colors, very much primary or like regular rainbow colors. I guess primary and secondary, but not tertiary. Yeah, so I'm doing that, and it's coming out great. It is fairly far along. I started the 5th skein this weekend, and then let me see if I can get this to show better for you so you can see how long it is. I started the 5th skein this weekend, so I have a decent amount, but of course it is not enough for a blanket. It's probably enough for about half a blanket. So I went and looked on Ravelry, and it turned out that there are actually multiple people who have this exact colorway and quite a few skeins in their stash. I bought basically a sweater quantity, and I have inquired, but Ravelry is not the bustling metropolis it once was, and so no one has responded back to me yet. So I have some other ideas about how I might finish it. If I could get a hold of another 5 or 6 skeins, I would just do that. They were inexpensive. Everyone has them on Ravelry for $4 or $5 a piece, so it would cost me $20 to $25, $30 to get them, and then I could finish off this blanket. I'm not concerned about finding other fingering weight scraps in my stash, because those I'm sure I will find easily. I did my math wrong. 164 and 164 is 320, not 380. So I suppose it falls into sport or DK weight. But even so, sorry. Things go around in my head. Even while I'm talking, I'm still thinking about things and puzzling through things. And I was like, I don't think I did that right. a little all over the place. Sorry. Anyway, so I am waiting to see. I probably have another week or two that I can work on this blanket with the yarn that I have in stash. I've been going through about a skein a week, and I started the 5th skein last night. So I probably have about another week before I really have to get serious about what I'm going to do next. I do have some other things in the stash that I could potentially audition. I certainly know that I have other skeins in the stash that I could put into this. I'm a little matchy-matchy and a little less scrappy on a lot of things, so I would actually love if I could get a hold of more of the orange so that I could keep it consistent throughout the blanket. The other thing is that since it's kind of a nebulous gauge, and I'm not really sure exactly what gauge it is, or since it's kind of a nebulous thickness, I would really like to continue with the 2 yarns, like one fingering and one whatever it is throughout the blanket, so that I just don't have like a massive gauge change in the middle of the blanket. If I have to, I will. It's not a huge deal. I do have probably about 600 or 700 yards of something else that I could make the other half of the blanket. And if I needed to, I could also do some knitting 2 together in the middle on the changing row or in there, so that I could kind of make it not like, the problem when you put 2 yarns together that are like completely different gauges is like the second half of the blanket might be wider than the first half of the blanket. I could totally do that, and this is a scrappy blanket. It's meant to be a donation, but I'm a little bit finicky. I know beggars can't be choosers, but I'm a little bit finicky on how I would like to finish this scrap, and so if I could find more of the orange yarn, that would be great, so that then I could just continue on in the manner that I started. I am almost out of the scraps that I had in this bag, but I know I have more scraps elsewhere. I just have to find where they are, and if not, I have another skein or 2 of, I have a full skein of sock yarn that I know I'm not going to use for anything else. Well, okay, I should say I'm probably not going to use for anything else. I certainly have more scraps that I can put into this blanket, but to be honest, if I could keep the same 2 base yarns, even if they're not the same color, then I could work on that. And there are a few other people who have skeins of this yarn, but not this colorway. So if I had to, I could switch colorways for the second half, but it would still be the same gauge. I know. I'm just talking a mile a minute, and I don't know why. So that is what I'm doing. Stay tuned. There will be more planning. I'm still enjoying this project. I'm doing like a chunk each night, usually like whatever is kind of a full mini skein worth, or whatever the leftovers are. So I'm doing 6, 8, 10 rows, and that is totally fine with me. I think that fits, and I will keep working on this and hope to have it done by the end of the year. I will not, however, have it done by the end of the month, and that is totally fine. But again, like I said, I hope to get it out of the stash by the end of this year, and look at all these colors. Look at how cheerful it is. I'm so excited. I love how this is working up. It's making me happy. I will take lots of pictures, and then I will send it off to a new home where hopefully it will keep them warm. But I just love all the color in there, and so if I could keep using the same yarns, that would be wonderful. So that is what's currently on the needles, which brings me to what's about to be on the needles. So the first thing is that I finished that pair of socks for Miles, and that means it is time for me to knit a pair of socks for his sister. So I have a skein of yarn for his sister. It is the same dyer, so that is Deep Dyed Yarns Good Juju, and this is in the colorway Multiplayer, which I think would be kind of fun. Obviously it's a video game reference, but she also plays lots of Dungeons and Dragons. Oh my goodness, she is in a D&D club at school, and this year a lot of new people joined, but not a lot of the previous people who were in club stuck around, and so she is running campaigns. I love it. Anyway, so this is called Multiplayer, and it is blue and purple and pink and navy, and I am so absolutely excited to knit her these socks. I'm thinking I might actually knit her monkey socks because they look different enough that they won't get mixed up in the wash, and I think it will be a great way to, again, break it up and have some fun with it. And then my thought is that I'm going to do these 2 together for me, maybe in 2-row pinstripes, because some of the colors are kind of the pink and purple, and even the blue are similar colors because they're kind of like neon colors. So I think they would actually work pretty well together. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are going to be absolute clown vomit socks, and I totally get that. But I think a 2x2 striping sock in these 2, like if I turned it into knee socks for myself, they would be so much fun. Anyway, so that is what I think I'm going to do with the leftovers of these 2 skeins, but I need to cast on for Roxy's socks. I am pleased that I finished Miles. I knit Miles' whole second sock in about a week. My guess is I could probably do the same for Roxy, but I'm not entirely concerned about it. I will need to have these done for Thanksgiving because I only see my side of the family at Thanksgiving, and Beth and I spend Christmas with our in-laws. So I do need to finish these before Thanksgiving, but that still gives me a little bit over a month to knit one pair of socks. And as always, we are driving out to Los Angeles for the holiday, so I will also have like between 2.5 and 3 days of driving to get there, that I can still work on these socks if I have to. So we'll start them this month, but yeah. So the next thing that I'm really excited to talk about is NaNoWriMo. That's National Knit a Sweater Month, and that is in the month of November. The challenge was based on NaNoWriMo, which is now defunct, which was National Novel Writing Month. And the idea was for those who have, this is NaNoWriMo, for those who have a burgeoning novel inside them, sit down and write your novel in November, and you should do 50,000 words in those 30 days. So years and years and years ago, Shannon Oki, who is Knit Girl, and she is the head of Cooperative Press, so they publish knitting books and other tutorials and t-shirts and all kinds of things, but primarily books. She came up with the idea that there should be a NaNoWriMo, and that is National Sweater Knitting Month, and the idea is that you would knit a sweater of 50,000 stitches. We have since expanded that to include crochet, so you can crochet a sweater of 50,000 stitches. And everyone is welcome to participate. It is free to join. The only exciting thing is to challenge yourself to knit a 50,000 stitch sweater in the month of November. Sweater is, I don't want to say loosely determined. It has armholes, it has a neck hole, it has more than 50,000 stitches. If it's like a poncho type sweater, as long as it has armholes, you're good. If it's a vest, I think you'd have a really hard time getting 50,000 stitches, but depending on the size you're making, or if you're knitting it in really, really, really tiny yarn, maybe it has 50,000 stitches. That's fine. It doesn't have to have sleeves to be considered a sweater. It is, like I said, armholes, neck hole, loosely goes on your torso. Let's call it a sweater. Trying to think. Many years ago, some people donated prizes. Some years we have prizes, some years we don't. Mostly it's just a challenge to get yourself to knit a sweater in a month. You can knit for yourself. You can't knit 2 small sweaters and call it 1 large sweater, but basically those, well, okay. All the rules in the thread were always really set for prize winning to try and keep an even playing field. And I even talk about all of these. Okay, I'm talking about the rules because I am a moderator in the thread and have been in the group for many, many years. I have participated almost every year. I have not always knit a sweater for myself. Some years I knit sample sweaters, and last year I did not finish my sweater because I got partway through the month. Excuse me. And figured out that it was the wrong size, and I still have not pulled that out and reknit it yet. It's on the list, but I decided not to do it this year because I decided I did not want to start with bad juju. Anyway, if you want to join me and knit a sweater in November, I am going to start, basically you start on November 1st, you finish on November 30th. That is in your time zone, and all the knitting must be done in that time. You can sew on buttons and take pictures afterwards, but all the knitting really needs to be done during that time frame. Again, these are all kind of arbitrary rules for prizes. I will let you know that I am going to start my sweater on November 1st. I most likely will not have it finished by the end of the month. It will be the requisite 50,000 stitches, but my guess is I won't finish because I have chosen to knit a fingering weight sweater, which is part of the reason that I'm going through all of this is because I'm going to talk to you about what I'm going to knit. If you have questions about NaNoWriMo, if you can access Ravelry, there is a NaNoWriMo group in there. You will find everything you need in there. If you have questions, go ahead and post them in there. I will be happy to stop by and answer them. If you cannot access Ravelry safely, then please just, and you want to participate, please just let me know. I will answer any questions you have. You can use the hashtag NaNoWriMo2025. That's what we'll be using, and I would love to see you there. So, without further ado, I started thinking about what I wanted to knit for NaNoWriMo, and I actually narrowed it down to 2 choices, and I went with the one that I think I'm going to have more fun knitting this year. The other one was a colorwork sweater, and as much as I want the sweater, I don't actually want to knit colorwork, and so I decided to use some yarn that has been very dear to me. I've been saving it up for the perfect project, and then I picked a pattern that I really liked. So the pattern is called, hang on just a second, the pattern is called 6 Crooked Highways, and it is a, it's actually knit from the bottom up. It is a turtleneck that features some delicate cabling on it, and it is knit in a fingering weight yarn, but the yarn that it is knit in is actually a really, really light fingering weight, like almost 500, and I'm doing my math correctly here, almost, did I do my math correctly? I can't remember. That's a good question. I think it was 270 yards per 50 gram skein. So that's going to be 540 yards per 100 gram skein. And the yarn that I have is 550 yards per 100 gram skein. And part of the reason that I've been holding on to it so long, one is that I want to put it in the perfect pattern, but two is because that's a really light fingering weight and I couldn't decide what I wanted to do with it. And I have enough for I have 4 skeins, so I have plenty to do a sweater, and I think actually this is going to be the perfect pattern sweater combo. So like I said, the pattern is a, it starts from the bottom up, but it is a turtleneck with drop shoulder sleeves with simple cabling on it. I will link to it in the show notes. I can't remember if it's just on Ravelry or if it's on the designer's site as well. I do follow the designer on YouTube. Her name is Kristen Jancic, and she goes by Media Peruana. And she has a really nice YouTube channel where she like rounds up, she has a very specific aesthetic, and it's not always my aesthetic, but it is, because it's a little bit more minimalist and clean tailored lines than I am into, so they are always beautiful garments, but she also tries to highlight some really interesting things. So like some designers that were really hot back in the day that aren't hot anymore, but that you might go back and find a treasure trove of their patterns. One of the other ones she highlighted was like 10 or 15 Latinx designers, so that you could focus on their patterns. So she just does really cool kind of roundups of things. Anyway, I want to knit her pattern, and I have this gorgeous, gorgeous yarn. So this is from Cozy Colorworks, and this is a dyer that I discovered when I first went to Rhinebeck, and I think that was the year I was 40 or 41. I went with some friends in my knit group, and we discovered the dyer, and she had the softest, most luscious yarn ever. And I bought 2 skeins and brought them home with me and loved them, and then was so sad that I had not gotten more. And then in 2018, maybe, I worked at Stitches Chicago. I went to Stitches Chicago with a friend of mine, also actually one of the people who went to Rhinebeck with me, and we went and I worked in the Zen Yarn Garden yarn booth, and then I took some classes. No, I didn't take any classes. My friend took classes. I worked in the Zen Yarn Garden booth, and the Cozy Colorworks, the people that I had fallen in love with at Rhinebeck, were there. And they also have a website, so you can buy from them online now, but you couldn't back in the day. They were just like doing a booth at Rhinebeck. And so I bought a sweater quantity of my favorite yarn from them. And so this is their hand-dyed superwash merino. It's 550 yards of fingering weight or light fingering weight. And the company is called Cozy Colorworks, and this is the Northern Lights colorway. And so this is like Aurora Borealis, yellows and greens and purples and mauves and pinks. And I am super, super excited. And then it's all kind of on a, it's not exactly a charcoal. It's not like silver. I would say maybe pewter or like a mid-gray. And I am really, really excited for just a cozy, cozy sweater for the fall to wear. So that is what I have. I have 4 skeins. I really do, honest. And I'm going to wind them up and I'm going to swatch with them because I really, I need to know exactly what gauge I'm going to get with this yarn. And I have some ideas on needle size and what I want it to be and what the gauge the pattern suggests is. And so, but because it's not a standard fingering weight, I actually am going to swatch. I know, I'm growing up. So I need to wind yarn and swatch this week because cast-on is Saturday, November 1st. And we will be in the car that day. And so we are taking a short trip that day, and so I want to have everything set to go because since it is in the round from the bottom up, I can cast it on and start working on the body, and that will be perfect car knitting. So that is a really long story to talk about Nanny Swaymo. So let's talk about spinning. And this is where I remembered that I forgot something. So let me turn around and grab something from behind me. I forgot that I finished plying my yarn last week. I think I showed it to you ready to be plied, but then I put it together and plied it. And this is absolutely luscious. This is Lorelei from Fat Cat Knits, and it is on Polworth. And I did not check, but I know I got, I probably got between 370 and 400 yards of fingering weight, and it is just absolutely luscious. It is reds and pinks and purples and greens, and it honestly, it looks like it could be Christmas yarn to me. This would make absolutely luscious Christmas socks. It is not superwash though, so it could felt a little bit, but it looks like Christmas yarn to me, and it's absolutely stunning and squishy and so soft, and I love Fat Cat Knits. Her fiber prep is impeccable. I got her braids generally run heavy, so normally like she says 4 ounces, but it's always 4.1 or 4.2, and it always spins beautifully. So I need to take photos of this and put this up in the shop. This will be up in the shop this week, so if this is something that you are interested in, keep an eye out for it. I'll probably take photos and make it the cover of the Cinnamon Wu-Tang episode. So I will work on that. I actually finished this last weekend, and I think I went to wash it. Gosh, I don't even remember. Did I podcast late last week? No. I must have finished it after I podcasted last week, because it was ready to go, and I dropped it in the sink and got it ready, and I thought I was going to put it up last week. Maybe it was just in the bobbin when I don't even know anymore. I can't keep track. What is time? Okay, spin, done. Next spin started. This is a very almost vintage spin. So recently I have a friend who is clearing out her house. It's actually the one who sent me the sewing machine, and she sent me some spinning fiber too, because she is selling her wheels, and she is kind of just downsizing for everything. And she sent me some fiber, which was, I call vintage, because they were dyers back when I was starting to learn to spin, and they don't dye anymore. One of the braids that she sent me is a lovely, luscious braid from Cloud Lover, who was Natalie, and she was out of Chicago. I think she still lives in Chicago, but she does not dye anymore. And this is Superwash Merino, 4 ounces in the hibiscus colorway. And look, back in the day, braids were only $18. I'm not saying that prices have gone up. This is just like vintagey. This is like an old label, an old tag, an old price. I understand that prices for everything have gone up. I am not trying to critique anyone for what they're charging these days. I was like, $18. Gosh, it's been a long time since I got a really beautiful bump of fiber for $18. Anyway, this is what hibiscus looks like. It is all pinks and purples and white, and you've got a little bit of like bluey purples, and then a lot of pinky purples and mauve, and it's absolutely lovely. And I finished the first bobbin, so this is what I've got to show for it. So the fiber that I was just holding is the second bobbin's worth, and so I have not started that yet, but I plan to start it, and I don't know if I will finish that this week. If I do, then I will start plying. If not, then I'll show you the finished bobbins next week. Excuse me. I am later in the day podcasting than normal, and it is starting to hit me. It is about 3:50, and I'm podcasting late in the day because I had so much going on with work early in the day. Anyway, this is the first bobbin, and so my hope is I will have the second bobbin by the time we meet next, and then I'll be able to show you finished. This will go up in the shop as well. This has also been a pleasure to spin. She had great fiber prep as well, and it is just drafting super easily. It is a little bit slippery, as Superwash Merino tends to be. It is not my favorite fiber to spin because of the fact that it's so slippery, and that's because to make it superwash, they basically chemically treat the scales on the fiber so that they don't stick together and rub together and in agitation would not felt, which is what normal wool does. And so what makes it superwash is they kind of remove that outer or protect, chemically coat that outer layer of scales so that they're super slippery, but that also makes the fiber super slippery. However, these would make great socks since it is Superwash Merino. So if you ever had princess dreams, here they are. Right here. So I will be working on this one this week, and I should have it done and in the shop soon. So that brings me to sewing, and I'm just going to show you a few little bits about sewing. Last week I showed you a new block for a patriotic quilt that I'm working on, and I told you that I was probably going to start a second quilt, and I did. I did not start it last weekend. I started it this weekend, and today I actually brought the pattern with me. So I am making the Socket to Me quilt. Sorry, there's a glare on that, but I'll put it this way. I am making the Socket to Me quilt, which is a design that has been made for fat quarters. So first of all, what is a fat quarter? I think I've talked about this before. A fat quarter is basically a quarter yard of fabric, but it's cut slightly differently. So a quarter yard of fabric is usually 9 inches. That's what because a yard would be 36 inches. A quarter yard would be 9 inches. And the width of fabric is approximately 44 inches. That's the width of the fabric on the bolt. Sorry, or maybe the length of the fabric, but the width, they call it width of fabric on the bolt. So when you get a quarter of fabric, you would get 9 by 40 or 44 inches. A fat quarter is still in area the same quarter of a yard, but it is cut slightly differently. Fat quarters are 18 by 22 inches. So basically you're getting a half yard, but you're also getting half the width of the bolt. So the math is still kind of the same, but they look a little bit different. And what that does is it also enables you to get slightly wider pieces out of it if you want to. And fat quarter bundles are super popular. You can see I have one right over my shoulder here. It is just a stack of fabric where they have taken usually like one of every SKU in the fabric line. Often fabric lines will have anywhere between 12 and 20 SKUs, like different prints in the fabric collection. And so a fat quarter bundle gives you a fat quarter, so a quarter yard of each of those fabrics. So that's kind of what that looks like. So I had a fat quarter bundle that I buy lots of fat quarter bundles because I think they're beautiful and I really, really love them. And I find them tempting, so I buy them. A couple weeks ago, I showed you a fat quarter bundle that I had bought from Missouri Star when it was on deep sale and said that I wanted to use it for a fun kind of lap quilt, smaller quilt, maybe a kid's quilt. When I looked at the prints, they're not exactly kid prints. They're not kid prints. There's nothing non-safe about them, but they're florals. They're just not like as much fun as kid prints would be. So I don't know whether this will be a lap quilt or a kid quilt or exactly what I'm going to do with it. Anyway, I was looking for fat quarter patterns. So the way this quilt is made, and it's kind of deceptive, but the reason the blocks look really long is because all of these blocks are unfinished, so that's before they're sewn. They are 9 by 18. So basically you are cutting your fat quarters sort of in half. So you have a piece of fabric that's 18 by 22. You lop off that 4 inches, so it's an 18 by 18 square, and then you cut it in half once, and that gives you your 9 by 18. So that's how you kind of prep your fabric for this. And then you cut some short stripes at the end, and then you start intermixing the different fabrics. So you have different fabrics together, and then you just lay them out kind of opposite ends. Mine is not going to be quite this big because this is actually a 7 by 6, 7 across blocks by 6, no, by 5. Yeah, 7 by 5. Sorry, it's a 35 block quilt. Which uses 18 fat quarters, probably. Yes, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, 18 fat quarters and 2/3 of a yard of binding. So that is the original quilt. I am making mine 5 across by 4 down. So that's going to make mine, I think I figured it out. It's supposed to be about 42 or 43 by 60-ish. So that's what mine's going to be. It's the original one was 60 by 73. I don't have enough fat quarters for that because I only had 10. So I only have 20 of these blocks because I have 10 fat quarters and each one cut in half is 20. And so that is what I am working on. So I'm going to show you about half the blocks that I worked on this weekend. The other half I still have yet to do, but this is what I did, so I will show you. Some of them are exact duplicates, and some of them I kind of mixed and matched. So, for instance, like this one has the bright floral fabric and a little bit of pink. And these are in 2s because of the way I did them. So this is the other half of the fat quarter, but then I used white in there. And then we move on to the white itself, and I used the floral. And then another white one, but this time I used kind of a geometric with peach and aqua. And then we have the peach and aqua itself, along with aqua. and then the peach and aqua along with white. And so basically what I did is a lot of these strips are the same size. I kind of just cut them the same size, and then I played around with what colors went together. So here is the aqua with the geometric print. And you can see I just mixed and matched these. And here's the aqua with the floral print. And then it turns out the floral, I thought they were two separate florals, but it turns out they're the same floral. There were two cuts of it in this. So I have the floral with pink. And I have the floral with blue. And then I have the pink with floral. And in this one, I didn't find another one that really went with it, and I kind of ran out of choices. So this time I did the pink with the floral. So I have, this is 12 blocks, and so I have 8 more blocks. So I have 2 more sets of fabric. 2 more sets? This is 12, so it's 6, 4. So 4 sets. So I'll have 8 more blocks, and I will do those next weekend, and then I will start putting these together and just reversing them and playing around with the order and putting them together. It is a good way to come up with a quilt pretty fast, because obviously I had to make little cuts and do all of these seams, but the blocks themselves are very big, so they make a big quilt really, really fast. And then I already have the backing, and I have a piece of fabric that is 44 inches, which should just barely fit. Do as I say, not as I do. You're supposed to have backing that's at least 2 to 4 inches bigger on all sides. Mine will probably be 1 inch on either side. That's in case of slippage while you're quilting. Mine will probably be 1 to 2 inches, probably 1 to 1.5 inches on each side. But it is a 2-yard cut, which means it's 44 by 72. And my quilt is probably going to be about 41 or 42 by, 42 by 60. So that should fit in there, and I'll be able to do that. And then I have not picked out my binding yet. I am tempted to actually go with the same binding I used last time, which was purple strips, because I think the dark purple will set off against these, but I will just have to see what I have in stash. Pattern says 2/3 of a yard. I will need less since my quilt is a little bit smaller, so I'll probably need more like a half a yard, and we'll just have to see what I have. Again, the fun of this is that I'm basically quilting out of my stash. I mean, it's all fabric that I've bought semi-recently, like within the past year or two, but yeah. So that is my new quilt. It's called Sock It To Me, and that is what I'm going to be working on for the next couple weeks, and I will share it with you as I do it. This one I'm going to do all in my house, all in-house. So next weekend I will probably work on the blocks and finish those. The weekend after we're doing that day trip, so probably the weekend after that I'll put the top together, and then it'll probably take me a couple weeks to quilt it, and so my guess is I will finish it maybe a little bit before Thanksgiving. And then I will also have the other quilt block to do. And then I kind of went hog crazy and signed up for a bunch of quilting things next year. So we'll see how that goes, but you're going to be seeing a lot of quilting here. And I do apologize to those of you who started coming here for knitting and spinning, that I am dragging you down this sewing path with me. If you are not interested in the sewing, I will always try and leave it to be kind of the last thing, so that if you do not want to stick around, you do not have to. I myself understand how it is when you watch a podcast for so long about something that you love, and then you're like, oh, they're on to new things. I hope that maybe you'll find a little bit of enjoyment or interest in what I'm doing, but I promise this will not become a purely quilting podcast, because I have way too much yarn to stop the knitting and way too much fiber to stop the knitting and spinning thing. So it will definitely be sticking to my roots, but there will probably be lots of quilting content, especially in the next year, because I signed up for a bunch of things to kind of keep myself quilting and trying new things and challenging myself, and I may have overextended myself, but we'll see. So I hope that you are doing well. I wish you a happy fall. I know I am like at 40 minutes, and so it was way too much talking this time, but I appreciate you sticking around and hanging out with me. And I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you soon. Bye.